Good afternoon, everybody, to our today's session on online proctoring. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Thomas Fetsch, and I'm the Managing Director of Proctorio GmbH, located in Unterföhring near Munich. And the title of our today's presentation, which I will share in a minute with you, is Online Proctoring, the New Normal, with a question mark, since we don't know if it's the new normal. We'll see. I prepared some slides, some information, which I hope you can take something with you, experiences, learnings, or at least some information. And before we start, I just want to make you aware that there is a poll available on Schwab card. It's 4 questions and answers which are exactly the same, which has been used in a survey of one of our customer institutions. And I will share this survey results with you later on. And if you want, it's just an offering. You can just answer the questions in the poll, and then later on we will have some kind of comparison between what student said to the same questions and what you might have in mind around this. But this is only me. There is also a colleague of mine. Markus, please.
Thanks, Thomas. So my name is Markus Schwab. I'm also with Proctorio. I run the sales team for the DACH organization. And as Thomas mentioned, today I'll bring your questions that you may have that you can post in the chat, as well as the survey results that you have brought up in the polls. At the given time, I'll bring them up and make everybody aware of what this group thinks of those questions, and then we can have a good comparison. And with that, Thomas, back to you.
Great. So now the tricky part: share the screen. Hopefully, get the right pictures on screen. Markus, you will just give me feedback.
Yeah.
You can see the whole slide. That is just great. Okay, so we're good to go. And we have roughly an hour, which we might use depending a little bit on interactivity on your side. If there are questions, please reach out, use the chat. My colleague Markus, as he mentioned, will be on the chat if some questions come up that I can answer. He will interrupt me, and I will try to answer the questions to my best knowledge. So again, as I said, it's about online proctoring, and the question is this the new normal? And let's start with something we experienced the last month, I would say. And so of course you can imagine that a lot of discussions now and today has been driven by the pandemic situation. I think we see light at the end of the tunnel. At least I hope that personally. And still, what it showed us, what it brought to us is, in an extreme situation, how can we use education, still conduct education, say it like this, in such extreme times. And a lot of institutions all over the places started to use online proctoring, utilize proctoring in order to do online vigilation, online proctored exams, while the whole education digitized itself in a very short amount of time. That led in the end to very controversial discussions about the topic of online exam supervision. Maybe you have seen some of this, maybe you have been in some of these discussions, so maybe you will have set your mind around it already. To our opinion and to my personal opinion, since I've really been in a lot of these discussions, the discussion is often characterized by prejudice, misinformation, and populism. To be sure, to be honest, if we talk about the data security and privacy, which is most of our concern, really to keep the data safe, but this is on the other hand sometimes not really underfed by the real information, like real experiences. And that's what I really want to show you today and want to share with you today, is experiences we made. And this lack of objectivity, and also, to my opinion, does not do justice to the importance of the topic, because we're not talking about the extreme situation as a pandemic. I hope so, at least. But we are talking about the digitalization of education itself and how it can help us in the future to make education available to each and everyone. Doesn't matter in which personal situation this person is, doesn't matter where the person is located, or in which like circumstances this person might be at the moment. So let me share a few things about the current situation. And the first example is a bit an idea on visualize what the discussion to our opinion is led by. And so when I would put it in one picture, it would be like this. Where is proctoring currently? There's in the discussion, and it's really that 90% of discussions about proctoring is opinion-based, while 10% is reality-based. And this is something, to our opinion, that needs to be reserved very urgently. And to show you what I have in mind about this, we will a little bit talk about something called epistemology. And to the people who haven't heard about that before, epistemology is like the philosophy of dealing with knowledge and the theory of how knowledge actually is gathered. So it's about what is knowledge, how is knowledge acquired, and how what do people know and how do we know what we know. So it's a very philosophical topic, of course, but talking about opinion, big opinion-based discussion on the one hand side, and and reality, very small reality piece on the other hand side, this would automatically lead into, okay, what is it all about? And on a higher level view, it would be opinion is what we would call belief, while truth is what we would call reality. Something in between, there is that overlap, which we would then eventually say is knowledge, like justified belief, right? There is always a belief, and then I try to find out, okay, what's really into it? What is the truth? So we never know if it's really a truth, but at least what we know is, okay, knowledge is at least justified belief, what we take for sure, right? And this is what we try to reach. Talking about the proctoring currently is, we want to have this situation between opinion and reality-based beliefs, say it like this, and just enlarge the overlap in order to create knowledge in the end about this topic of online proctoring, and just to have a proper conversation about, is proctoring a good thing to do, or is it bad? Is it something that is good in certain situations, or is it not good in certain situations? Which are the situations that proctoring is good to utilize for? So this is what we are talking about today, and this should just act as some kind of auxiliary, like some helper, to let you understand what the discussion at the moment from our point of view is driven by. Let's have a look in the development of e-learning itself. So it's about the digitalization of education. And I made some kind of research around the growth of e-learning. And as you can see, there is like a lot of sources in the internet to be found. That was very speaking to my opinion, talking about the e-learning market. So there is, of course, a certain business pocket started in 2020, and there is an expected growth in that market from year over year, more than 20% for the next 5 to 7 years, say it like this. And this shows us that the demand in the digitalization of education is quite big, and there might be different reasons for it. One of it is definitely convenience, to our opinion, the convenience to just decide either to go on campus or stay at home, find the environment that is most usable, most fitting to my personal circumstances. I reply myself at that point. So this is just at that point a big demand in the e-learning market. You can also see like the rapid growth of e-learning in different sectors, like the classic online learning or the rapid e-learning. Is it about the learning management systems? So of course, companies, vendors all over the places want to know what business pocket is the most interesting one, say like this. And So what I found is that the future of e-learning in that case is obviously online and mobile. Again, I come back to that saying, convenience is one of the drivers. So mobility is something students, exam takers today obviously want to have or need to have, because we also see a lot of in-service students, people who are employed, working all the day, have a family maybe, are in different situations. Maybe then Corona comes on top and you're not able to to organize your day-to-day work, and you still want to educate yourself. Then you just need to organize that in a way. And like e-learning, online learning and mobility in that case makes things way easier. Beside that, of course, there's a lot of new technologies that can be used, that can be utilized, like AI or virtual reality. Of course, the cloud-based learning management solutions that will mobilize all that education experiences, the curricula. All that is a driver of e-learning. Just a little bit different scope is the rapid growth of massive open online courses all over the world. And you can see that this is already 2 years old. Like by the end of 2019, around 13,500 massive open online courses has been launched by around 900 universities around the world. So only in 2019, 2,500 of these 13,500 courses has been launched by 450 universities, which is like like a 50%, or like it's more like a double. It doubled in the numbers of universities. At the same time, the courses get more and more, and the nature of the massive open online course, of course, is that everybody, like 120 million students, you can see it on the right side, is a huge amount of students. They might be spread out all over the places, globally seen, which really opens up education to each and everyone in the world. And just another example is the growth in online education, that also which led in the end to the establishment of online proctoring. And if you can see, in the year 2000, we had approximately 165, 170,000 enrolled online courses on higher education institutions, and this dramatically grew until 2018. I didn't find newer numbers like that, but it might be even more today. But there is a huge increase of enrolled online higher education courses globally seen. And in the end, it increased, of course, the flexibility. It increased the accessibility, if we talk about accessibility needs of different groups of students. And of course, what I said, the convenience for the assessment process itself. And a lot of curricula nowadays are already fully online. They are or partly to fully online. So the last missing bit, the test itself, the assessment itself, in a certain stage of this learning experience at the moment is only on campus, or has been on campus, and that dramatically changed the last 2 years, I would say. So talking about online proctoring and why it also why it has been stimulated, or why the growth of online education established online proctoring, is that the preservation of academic integrity still is a big topic, right? So just doing courses is good, right? So the knowledge might flow, but on the other hand, talking about academic integrity, grading itself, it's very important that some third party, for example, later on employers, can measure on it a little bit, and of course make a personal introduction, but on the other hand also have some kind of certificate which you can just read over to figure out, okay, is the knowledge on the like in that spectrum or scope we would expect it to be. And then, of course, for the organizations itself, in a lot of cases, we've seen like the nullification of administrative burden and cost through digitalization, which is more financial or business model aspect for organizations around the world. Last but not least, focusing down on the online proctoring itself. Also, online proctoring has seen a strong growth. I just highlighted it here. Also, that the online proctoring market itself has is a big business nowadays, obviously, and also the year-over-year growth is around between 15 and I've seen other reports up to 20% year-over-year until 2020. So it's quite parallel to the growth expectations we have seen in online learning and e-learning itself. And interesting is that why this is driven is the flexibility, the robust functionality of online learning itself, and then the complete course efficiency, and which leads to to a continuous engagement in that sense. If I don't have to change the system, like from online back to on campus and from on campus back to online. So if somebody wants to utilize this, it's interesting to talk about online proctoring. It provides flexibility. It is, of course, very, very big topic, talking about accessibility. And accessibility, of course, we think about disabled people maybe as a first intention, but accessibility needs is something people who are not close to the campus, people I don't know, which are like pro sports people, like sportsmen who traveling, or people in service, people, employed people that want to educate themselves while they working full time. And all this is accessibility, cost effectiveness, and convenience. The impact of Corona, that's often a raised question on online proctoring. Say it like this, is huge, of course. I think that is what everybody would expect. So what we see is that Corona drove the digitalization of online learning, of course, and it also drove at the same time, like this last missing bit, the assessment market, the online assessment market, the online proctored assessment market. Of course, since all the topics would apply for each and every online learning experience, of course, also count during Corona times. The flexibility in time, the flexibility in the location, and the accessibility, the convenience, all that, and in some cases, just to go on with education itself in Corona times, online proctoring was a chosen tool and possibility to go on with it. So this is just the experiences, like the market experiences we made. The question we would have in mind around all that is, okay, that was the last 2 years, but where are all these things heading? And is it something that might be establishing itself as a standard, or the new normal, or is it something else? And I will share like our view on it, at least. And there is, of course, two conflicting ideas on online proctoring. And the one side of the discussion, or the one side of the medal, is online proctoring as a temporary measure. Like, is it just a necessity during Corona and afterwards? And I heard that very, very often. Yeah, afterwards, once the Corona pandemic is gone, we will return to normalcy, return to traditional proctoring. So of course, there is proctoring in on campus. If you go to an on-site or on-campus test or assessment situation, you would need to show your passport. Maybe somebody will check your bag. You might get rid of your smart devices. I don't know, some smartwatch or smartphone. Like, this is the normalcy as we've seen it before. And then a lot of people gathered in the room, and there is, of course, some proctors going around and really try to figure out, is everybody in line the rules, or is somebody like cheating? So the second view to it is the online proctoring as a new standard, that people say, hey, we have a fair amount of students in our organization, our institution. And I hear that also very regularly, that so I talked to roughly 200 institutions the last 2 years about that. And they constantly said, yeah, a fair amount of a third to even 50% of the students are regularly in need of something in distance, and regularly have the need to make assessments online because of several reasons, right? It's more the personal circumstances. So if we would be able to offer such thing like as a standard, that would help us and it would help our students tremendously, right? And so the online proctoring as a new standard is not something we have in mind because we are a vendor. This is something the institutions have in mind in order to be competitive, in order to be able to deliver online education, like the full online education experience from end to end to their folks, to their students. And so Corona pandemic, to their point of view, was just a compelling event which kicked all that off and speeded it up. Unfortunately, it had to be something like a pandemic, but yeah, nevertheless, you thinking positive, that would be one very rare positive aspect in it. And yeah, better, more developed education systems, like better and more developed education systems, including online proctoring, is not just there for pandemic, it's there to stay. So this is the two conflicting ideas. And yeah, what is the answer to it? So not easy. It's like marriage would be maybe. So that was what I had in mind. Let's try to bridge the gap. And how would we do that? Through establishment of a modern and advanced e-assessment portfolio. And let me show you these three aspects we found as important, since let me just explain where I'm coming from thinking about that. Is when we talk about online proctoring, it's sometimes a separated or singled out discussion, but in fact it is not. In fact, there is three topics we need to focus on. And the first one, talking about proctoring, is talking about didactic. It's about the creation of a future-proof assessment portfolio. So there is, of course, different formats of exams and assessments. That's crystal clear, right? And there is also different stages a student or exam taker might found itself during education. And talking about that at the beginning of a study or an education experience, there are different assessment formats often, because we're talking about basic knowledge, talking about multiple choice, talking about different kind of knowledge that will be just asked in order to find out, is that the right education experience you're in? Is that the right education you're focusing on? Or is there something else you should better do instead of? So a lot of standard and basic knowledge will be asked at the beginning, while at the end of an education experience, after years of studying, for example, there is a habilitation or like some other kinds and formats of education and assessments. So since there is a difference, this is, of course, something we need to talk about, talking about online proctoring, because a habilitation maybe is not the right format to proctor, while a online exam in multiple choice style is a good format to proctor, for example. And that's what we've seen and also created together with most of our customers, really focusing on what kind of exams do you conduct as of today, what need to change if you want to transfer it into the online learning experience. And based on that, they created a future-proof assessment portfolio. Of course, it's the institutional responsibility to inform about, make it transparent. It has to be flexible and incorporating, and of course, convenient. And convenience nowadays, talking about education, is a very, very big topic. The second one is the legal aspects we want to focus on. Of course, this is what we mostly talk about. Is it compliant? Is the data secure? Are we in line with privacy standards? Is it, talking about Europe, GDPR proof? Do you have some kind of certifications which we can use as an institution to show our students, but also the authorities, everything is in order? Is all that well documented and transparent to each and every one? And there is no wrong question. There's only wrong answers, right? So if you cannot answer, is the data safe? And I say yes, and I can prove here, look, I documented it. Then this is much more reliable. Right, and so to comply with the same thing. So this is the complicated part in legal is we have the compliance with data security and privacy on the one hand side. This is what we mostly discuss about. And there is an educational law, right? And the educational law is also quite restrictive when it comes to an assessment situation. So there is, of course, rules and things. There is responsibilities of organizations which they need to meet. And like bridging this gap or just maybe closing that gap or resolving that overlap in two different legal systems is the challenge here, right? And we can help doing it. The third one is the organizational one. And like talking about organization is also very important because what we see, and as Proctorio, we are engaged in a European funded Erasmus program to establish competence center and also competence person staff within institutions. And so that's what we would say, the online proctoring management, somebody who is able to talk about the didactic, talk about the legal, talk about the organizational aspects. And so this project is right in the middle of the project at the moment. We will finalize some online proctoring education program together with organizations spread out all over Europe to establish the knowledge and also the position of an online proctoring manager. And this will give organizations centralized control of all the relevant activities. And trust me, there is some activities talking about the description of the assessment, the assessment regulatory, talking about the information needs given by GDPR. So there is quite some things to do. And then do not leave out all the didactics. The format of an exam, is the one format fitting to the situation or not? And is this some format we can proctor online, or is it something we need to do hybrid, or do we need to do it on campus? This is what we have in mind, talking about this organizational needs and the knowledge in a competence center in persons to be successful with the establishment of online proctoring. And at the end, it's about creating standard procedure and processes for a holistic assessment for the portfolio. I've brought a quick example, like a future-proof assessment portfolio. What might it be? You will know it, of course, already. Just what we experienced is it should be ingrained in an education system. Relevant, of course, for various exam or assessment formats, as I elaborated on just before. Also, secure integrity. There need to be a quality, of course, and trustworthiness of the results, which is touching on the so-called academic integrity. And in Germany, we've just seen some white paper research. Customers of ours participated in that. High schools within Germany participated in that. It's the so-called Hochschulforum Digitalisierung. Sorry, that's a German one, but it's a high school forum for digitization, and they wrote a full-fledged white paper, 200 pages, starting with different exam formats, didactical concepts, and also different ideas on how to conduct online exams in different formats, not necessarily with online proctoring, and definitely not necessarily with online proctoring with Proctorio, but it's a very good overview to understand, okay, there is like 15, 20, 30, whatever, great ideas on how to go on if you need to include somebody, if you have an extreme situation like pandemic and so on. Very, very interesting to look into this. What I also touched on and is the institutional responsibility, talking about these gaps and the institutional responsibility. I just want to point out some of these things there is a report called Academic Dishonesty and Testing. You can find it in the internet for free. It's a PDF document. You can see it underneath. So I just took the three, to my opinion, main aspects out of it. And the one is the impact of academic dishonesty. Like if you don't do anything against it, it goes beyond the individual impact. So the individual impact is, okay, so this is one person, he didn't know, he cheated, great. So he still got the A degree. This would be the individual impact, like that somebody gets a grade which the person is not deserving, right? But it goes based on that study beyond the moral and ethical boundaries, right? It's not only the individual impact; it goes beyond. And where can we see it? At one hand, like the reduction of perceived academic integrity at the institution. For example, the devaluation of degrees. Nobody puts trust into it anymore. If everybody can do whatever he wants, or she, whatever, and I have the feeling, I prepared myself very well for an exam, and but I just cannot be sure that everybody's stuck to the rules. That would automatically devalue degrees. And that is definitely a threat for the validity of those credentials, which makes it hard for the aftermarket, the employers again, the people who want to hire you, for example, based on these kind of certificates. It's only one side of the medal, of course, but it is still a side of the medal, right? And at the end, what they found as a conclusion is that it's not enough to hold exam takers that cheated accountable. This is not enough. It takes more. Institutions need to systemically limit and the prevalence of cheating. This is more or less the outcome. Why do we talk about academic dishonesty or academic integrity? Because it's a damage to the whole system, right? Okay, that was the theory. I promised you, and after half an hour, I just need a short sip of water. I want to share real-life online proctoring project experiences, and I brought some examples that just show you what the feedback is we normally get. And one of our students wrote us just last year in still during pandemic, of course, but he said, I would like to thank the ABR Radiology and Proctorio for the great and successful administration of this certification, and for him was good at the own chair, at their own workstation, at home, without stress. So you see, this is, of course, an in-service person who needed to manage like the whole private life, the work life, and then the education. So for him, I think it was very, very convenient. Then we see tweets like this, a little bit funny, right? My math professor is so extra. She can't just let us use Proctorio to proctor our tests like everyone else. We either got to drive all the way to the testing center and pay money for the proctor and so on. So this is just a glimpse. We see a lot of this and that statements, of course. There's not only positive ones. I'm focusing on the positive ones. And forgive me for that. But this just shows, again, convenience. Somebody need to drive, somebody has some stress, somebody need to organize himself, then still need to pay things and get proctored over there as well. So why not just make it easy and convenient for your individual situation? And this is what I want to focus on. It's about the individual situation mostly, because if my individual situation is I want to go on campus and sit there as always, because it's a relief for me after all the months, I want to go back to campus. Great, let's go. We are the last ones keeping somebody doing this. It's just adding a extra possibility, alternative way for the situations in which you're personally not able to go to campus or not willing to go to campus, or both of it. We've seen a petition in just recently in Netherlands, one of our customers, the Vrije Universiteit van Amsterdam. And the interesting part of it was that previous years has shown us that online proctoring is a viable and acceptable option for all universities, and all the faculty staff know how to operate the necessary online programs. And this is interesting because we have seen petitions against online proctoring. And this was a first petition during also like the end of last year that was pro-proctoring. Why is it? Why did it come up that late? Because now, and back to the pictures I showed you before, now we're talking more in reality and less opinion-based. And if you experienced how convenient, how helpful it can be in situations to utilize proctoring for different, for the right fitting exam format, and if I'm then on top of it, very well informed as a student or exam taker, this leads exactly to petitions pro-proctoring. And this is all we want to gain, right? The last example, also exam taker quotation, we got that during the last year from one of our German-based customers, the Akkad University. We recently won a prize with Akkad University, the so-called e-learning award for the most innovative online education program. That was exactly the online program together with Proctorio to conduct the whole education experience online from end to end. And this guy, you cannot read it, of course, but maybe you can read this, is what he stated is quite interesting also. A few days ago, he was allowed to do online exams with Proctorio, and he found it pleasant, without complications, modern. And interesting is the last sentence, that he couldn't see a difference like in level compared to the recently written face-to-face or on-campus exams. So no difference, but a lot of convenience and very helpful for this situation. And this guy would be happy and able to write more exams in the future without that travel stress, in distance, also especially in C times. I assume this is Corona times, to really utilize and make use of this online proctoring possibilities. And then he also stated the environmental reasons, welcome digital methods anyway. So that's what we all experience, sitting in home offices all around the globe, not need to travel, not need to do a lot of things, just stay at home. And this will maybe also be positive for the ecological footprint. So he was convinced. I think he will use it in the future too. But I can just top on that a little bit, because what Akkad did from the beginning is a survey with all the students in the so-called Sofort Online Klausur, which is in English the instant online exam. As of today, around 3,000 people filled in this survey, and it led to these numbers, right? So almost 60% have written the Akkad instant online exam already in that fully online format. Then 95%, which has been offered to write it online, actually, made the exam online. Like 95% of all the exams written by Akkad has been done in that Sofort Online Klausur, the instant online exam format. And so the 75% of the Akkad students indicated after the first online exam that they would most likely go with the same format in the future as well. And what we can see on the second page of it is that the overall satisfaction, the usefulness, also the satisfaction about the information and the practical implementation was quite well. This questions 3 and 4, of course, is institutional related. So this is what we help our customers to do, to roll out, give all the information, give all the transparency to the students, and we help to document it, give a lot of documents out to our customers, that they are able to inform their students about what's going to happen. Yeah, and the instant online exam increased the flexibility, and it increased, and that's pretty amazing, I think. It increased also the study pace. And the main question that was asked to them, like as a last question, was the most frequent answer to the question, what can we improve in online exams, is that the people said, I want to have more of this instant online exam, Sofort Online Klausur. Okay. So I think I have a second example, and I relate back to the poll we had. The questions we asked and the answer possibilities we gave are based on this survey conducted by the Technical University of Munich, one of our customers in Germany. What they started because they're really interested from an empirical point of view, how online assessment is accepted by students. And what they started right at the beginning of the pandemic situation in the summer semester 2020, again in the winter semester 2020-2021, and a third time in the summer semester last year, they asked always the same questions. So if some of the audience, some of you answer the questions, we have a possibility to compare the student views with your view, right? And let me just start with the first slide. And the first question, as you've seen it maybe, was about, is it easier to cheat when you're in online proctoring? And so you can see that in the summer semester 2020, 404 people conducted the survey. In winter semester, we had roughly 660. And in the next summer semester last year, again, 460, which is quite a good amount talking about cheating, as we've learned. So most people don't like to answer questions about cheating too much, but some of them did, and you can just see. So I fully agree, I agree, partially agree. So the majority of students, and this is like a trend of the whole pandemic situation, is that they disagree. So obviously it's not easier for people to cheat in online supervision, online proctoring. Markus, is there any result from the poll? Yes. Or
yes, there is. So in this group here, 22% actually fully agree that it's easier to cheat with online proctoring. 33% agree, 11 partially agree, 22% agree that less, and 11% disagree.
Ah, you see. Okay, so this is very, very interesting again, because we have different audiences and different views. So what I show you is the student view. So I think the main group of person in that survey, of course. So obviously the students experienced online proctoring, trust that online proctoring is not increasing cheating at all. While if I got the numbers right, the audience, and this is just an assumption, I don't know who is in the audience actually, but maybe it's more institutional based, professors, whatever. They obviously, you have more the opinion that it's easier to cheat while you are in online. Let's go on to the next question. And the next question was about what students would prefer to do. Like, is it, I feel, so the question exactly was, I feel more comfortable in the lecture hall when everyone sits their exam together. Almost the same amount of people. And so what we see is over the time, like from the beginning of 2020 to the last year's last survey results, that at the beginning everybody said, oh, I feel definitely more comfortable in the lecture hall because that's what I was used to. But that turned entirely, right? And you can just see that the trend is down to 18% from I fully agree. So I partially agree that is, of course, like there is a lot of people in between. So say, okay, I don't know actually, or sometimes this, sometimes that. But I fully agree to the I disagree, which is the polarization of it. Just turned entirely from I fully agree to I disagree at the end, and I disagree 18 versus 21 just shows that it turned, right? And Markus, maybe we have answers to that question too from the audience.
Yes, we do. So 11% of the audience fully agree to that statement. 22% agree. There's a quite big chunk in the partially agree with 44%. 22% agree less, and actually nobody disagrees.
Nobody disagrees. Okay, so again, the students obviously feel different at that point, and the partially agree, I can understand that, since we don't know at the moment, right? We don't know, is it really the end of the pandemic? Is that coming up again? Whatever. So there's a lot of things in our minds, I imagine. Students made up their minds, and so the partially agree is still the biggest chunk in that study too. But what we just try to point it out, and we did that together with our customer, Technical University Munich. So the people actually from the competence center over there, and they just added all this red lines and and arrows to show, okay, something changed in the minds of our main audience, which is the exam takers and students. There was a third question, and you have seen it obviously. So is it easier to concentrate? Very important question, of course. And so I can concentrate better at home. So in the online proctored exam version, when I'm alone. And you also can see that this dramatically changed over time, right? So of course, there's people that agree. So I would say that I fully agree, and the agree is still on the I can better concentrate at home side, while the I less agree and disagree portion is more, no, I would go back to the lecture hall because it's better for me than I really set in mind, and I sit there and everything runs as I expect it to run in the end. But this entirely changed over time. And again, Markus, what is the view of our audience on that part?
On this one, the audience, 22% of the audience fully agree to the statement. A third of the audience agrees, 22% again partially agree, and then it's 11 and 11% on the last two. So 11% agree less and 11% disagree.
Okay, but in that point, I just calculate the numbers hopefully correctly. But in this point, your view is in the same direction, like it has the same trending as the students would say that they can concentrate better at home. Okay, so and then there was a last question, and this is of course for us and also for the people in Technical University, that was quite impressive for us to see, because it was about the test scenario. What would you prefer overall? And the question was like really in this day-to-day exam situation, like the paper examination lecture hall, which has been like the one and only, the standard before, or the e-test in a PC laboratory on campus, which does imply that you are not on your own device, you will be on a device from the university or the higher education institution. The e-test on own device in the lecture hall, which is also like a scenario a lot of our customers offer, because there has to be some kind of alternative to a fully e-test at home, proctored or not. So there has to be some kind of alternative because of, again, individual situations. Somebody might be in a two-room flat with a wife and two kids and studying, so it's hard to concentrate, or it's like three siblings running around while I need to do a test. So this is just where this alternative way is coming from, more or less. And the interesting trend here is that I would say the standard, the so-called standard before pandemic, of course, was lecture hall. And at the beginning, of course, everybody said, yeah, let's go back to lecture hall. I don't want to stay at home. I don't feel comfortable. I don't trust this online proctoring stuff. I don't want to be surveyed, whatever. All this stuff we discussed, of course, about. And this also entirely turned to an end that even more people would go with an e-test at home after the time amount of 3 semesters, then go back to the lecture hall. And this is, I think, based on convenience, based on experience, based on knowledge, based on trust, based on reliability. So I think, and based on the fact that I can choose for the best way, again, in my individual situation. Markus, what is the view of the audience to that last slide?
Yes, so interesting to have this view over time as well, because we have 22% of the audience preferring the lecture hall. We have 11% looking at the e-test in a PC laboratory. 22% have the e-test with the own device in the lecture hall. And then a huge chunk, 44%, actually prefer the e-test at home.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is then definitely the same view, if not more dramatic in that case. And exactly like, if I count correctly, it's like 66% for either the partly proctored on campus or the fully proctored at home, which makes 2/3. Like online, obviously, is the format of the future, also in the view of our audience. And yeah, so this is an interesting, interesting comparison, of course, and just happy to answer questions afterwards. Let me just quickly go on to show you, last but not least, who we are. I didn't elaborate on Proctorio. Maybe you have heard of us, maybe you have used us already, maybe you have been seen us in organizations you're engaged with. So Proctorio, some facts. We started 2013 in US. So in USA, proctoring is already state of the art, I would say. And a lot of schools, universities, distance learning organizations, institutions, educators utilize this as a tool to create competitiveness, create ease of use, convenience, all that stuff, and also like keeping academic integrity as high as possible in a digital world. Yeah, so this is what we started with in 2013. As of today, we have around 125-126 employees globally seen. We're in 3 locations. In Belgrade, Serbia, in Munich, or Unterföhring, close to Munich, Germany, and in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is as well the headquarter. Nowadays, we serve roughly 1,200 customers, institutions, and companies. So I would say it's roughly 50 to 60% classic higher education institutions, and the rest of it is like distance learners, certifiers, and other professional education institutions that utilize us globally seen. Last year, we proctored roughly 25 million exams all over the world, in almost every country in the world. There is a few countries only we're not allowed to deliver to, which is, I think, Iran, Cuba, Northern Korea, and some other state, but again, students live all over the places, so we have usage in each and every country globally seen. I think you figured out what is Proctorio. Proctorio is a proctoring tool, AI-based and fully automated for online testing as of today, and we run as a browser extension in either Google Chrome, or mostly Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, which covers most of the global usage. There is, because it's only a browser extension, minimal technical requirements, but at the same time, there is also very low interaction with the device, since mostly devices are user-owned. We don't want to invade on user-owned devices, of course. So this is really just browser extension, and no possibility outside the browser to steer the device. We have a very individual options setting functionalities and for customizing the testing criteria, which is very, very important once, because we have different individual situations again, talking about accessibility needs, or talking about the format of the test, or the audience, like test takers itself. Sometimes it's regulatory, that just gives you like a certain frame, things you cannot do. Just as an example, in Bavaria, where I'm living at, At the universities, you're not allowed to use our desk scan functionality. So you're not allowed to use the camera to make some kind of desk scan at the beginning or during the exam to make sure that no cheating material is on the desk. It's not allowed, so you can just switch it off, and you're fine with all the regulatory, while you still have a lot of possibilities like the video or the audio or the screen share, and of course the lockdown options that helps you being very individual to meet the individual, but also the regulatory needs, and also of course the academic needs. So the authentication of test taker is a very integral part of our solution to make sure the right person sits in front of the device at the beginning of the test, that the grade that will be granted is for the right person, of course. And so what we do is a recording of the entire exam process and the test taker behavior that can be, as said, set very individual, based on individual and regulatory needs. It gives you as an institution the possibility to really look into details afterwards and figure out, okay, did everything go well? We applied some machine learning algorithms on top of it to help you like filter out the, basically we know globally seen that from this 25 million exams we conducted or proctored last year, less than 1%, 2% of the students really cheated. And we really want to focus on the ones who really try to cheat, try to circumvent everything to have the best grade possible while not learning. And yeah, this is what we made in format of a grade book to really help you finding out the ones who try to cheat and find them, right? So, and this is like real-time monitoring and analysis of behavior, comparison of the reference data in the whole cohort based on algorithm, on sometimes on AI, especially if it's about like, is there a face in front of the screen or not? So if somebody leaves the room without telling you, that wouldn't be good in an on-campus situation as well. This is what we can do. And if you're interested, of course, we are always happy to jump on a call, show you what we do, how we do it in a live learning management environment.
Just a quick heads up, Thomas. We have at the moment no questions and 5 minutes to go. So
yeah, thanks. Good. Okay. So I think I don't want to elaborate too much on how it works. Maybe you've heard or seen it already. Again, what we can always do is reach out to us. You will find us in the internet. You can just ask questions or drop a call. And we will show you how we work, what we do, how we do it, and what the experiences are in different exam situations. We can also compare it globally since we have customers all over the world. And so this is on the one hand side, the verification and some integrated tools that you don't need to leave the exam environment, especially if you use the lockdown options. And there is the so-called recording and lockdown options to safeguard the whole exam situation. Yeah, on a level that that brings in the academic integrity and at the same time the convenience, time and location flexibility for the test takers. Of course, we do have some customers. Again, this is something we are happy to share with you, also reference cases, or if you need to have some contact with institution which you're comparable to, just reach out and we are happy to connect you with some of our customers. This is what I prepared for you today. Hope you found some interesting information you can take with you, and maybe it will also help to understand or utilize proctoring for the future of your institution in order to grant the freedom of choice to your students, the freedom of choice in the sense of individual situation, convenience, while you keep the academic integrity and the learning experience as reliable as possible. Thank you very much.